Hello, everyone. Why don't you take a look at this picture here? And a fun fact about me, and I'll have to show you a picture of this. I have been there. I have been to Rome, the Colosseum. My husband and my two kids and we went last November. And it was probably the coolest place I've ever been to, actually. But anyway, so did you ever hear of the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day? I'm assuming most of you have. It's a pretty popular saying. Well, what do you think that means? Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, basically, any big, complex task or great achievement takes time and effort and should not be rushed. So why am I telling you this? Well, today we're talking about breaking a big task into smaller chunks. So this is our Connect You lesson for week 8. So this will kick off this week's assignments that after this lesson, you can go ahead and start this week's work, okay, in my Google Classroom. Okay, so our learning target for this lesson. I can meet a deadline by managing my coursework into small steps to complete assignments on time. So that's your goal here, that you can break things down to more achievable, smaller steps. Okay, so where to start? Take a look at this picture. Do any of you watch Hoarders or Hoarding, Buried Alive? I like those shows. Don't ask me why, but I find them fascinating. And this is kind of one of the examples that you would find on this show. Believe it or not, there's some that are even way worse than this, that you can't even, like, you have to just walk on piles of garbage in boxes and in a hoard, really. So where to start? Say you're a hoarder and you decide, okay, I'm ready. It's time to get my house in order. Well, where would you even begin to tackle this? And you like my little face there. And it's kind of the, ooh, right? Like, ooh, where do I even begin? And I gotta be honest with you, I could have easily taken a picture of my basement. Now, it's not as bad as this, but my basement's pretty bad. There's a lot of toys and old clothes for my kids and decorations, and, so that's getting a little out of control. So I sort of have that feeling when I go down to my basement, like, oh, where do I start? All right, well, where do you start? Well, there's a technique that helps people to be more successful, and it's as simple as breaking things down into tasks. So do you ever feel overwhelmed or stuck by a big task or project like in this picture? Like, see that face? Do you ever get that way about, ugh, I'm just stuck. I don't even know how to begin this. There's so much to do. What do you do to accomplish it on time? So think about that. What do you do to accomplish it on time? Do you already have a technique or strategy to accomplish something when you're confronted with a really big task or project? Well, maybe some of you look like that girl there. She looks like she's really struggling, right? And maybe that's happened to you, that exact picture, right? I know I've been there before, and where you just have something so big, you just get really overwhelmed and you don't even know where to start. So break it down. So you want to take a big task. So whatever that task is, it could be a big project you need to complete. It could be like that hoarder's room. Maybe you have to do a big cleaning project. So what are you going to do? You're going to break it into smaller tasks. And then what do you have to do? You have to set deadlines for them. So that goes back to, remember last week's lesson on SMART goals? I hope you're all experts on SMART goals now, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So the timely part's big with this. It seems, and I'm sort of this way too, I almost need a deadline in order to motivate myself to do something. And maybe you're that way too. It sort of, puts the pressure on you a little bit, some of you procrastinators. So set a goal, set a deadline, a time that you're going to complete it by. And then what will happen is you're going to feel good checking things off your list. And, research shows that once you get started with something, with a task, you're more likely to complete it and finish it. And when you start feeling these little smaller successes, you're motivated to continue on. And then, what happens? You eventually finish the whole task. Take a look at this little illustration here. This girl here, you can see her face. Ugh, right? It's that ugh face. See, here's the big goal. And she's uncertain of how she's going to accomplish her big goal. The reward just seems so far away. It's so long off. And, sometimes that even makes people not even want to get started at all. It's like, ugh. It's kind of with my basement. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. So I just don't start at all. You put it off, right? So I need to practice what I'm preaching here and use this technique for my basement. Like maybe just take one small section and say, okay, I'm going to do this corner today. I'm going to do 15 minutes and then I'm going to be done for the day. And could you imagine if I just kept doing 15 minutes at a time, how good my basement might eventually look? Think about it. So and then look at this side here. So she went from looking like this to this now. We even see a thumbs up there. Because look, she made smaller goals for herself. And she's getting more immediate rewards. So instead of having to wait forever to finally, meet your reward and accomplish your goal, she's getting smaller little rewards. And it's fueling her to continue on. So that's what you want to do because you're confronted with this a lot in school and just in general throughout your life. So you want to do this technique. Now, also, along with this, breaking things down into smaller tasks is something called chunking. So what is that? Well, chunking is a learning strategy that allows you to break down big ideas into smaller bits called chunks that are easier to remember. So they call that chunking. So this is more of a learning strategy. So when we talk about breaking it down, we're talking about breaking down tasks into smaller ones. We're talking about learning something now. You can even apply this same breaking it down into how to learn material. So, and I say that right here, just like you can break down a big task into smaller steps, you can break down a big idea into smaller chunks. And you could apply this to history, to my class, but really any subject. So, for example, and you guys deal with this all the time. You already are chunking stuff and you don't even realize it. Think of your social security number. Think of telephone numbers. Which one's easier to remember just looking at it right now? So if I gave you this and said, remember this number versus this one is easier to remember because you're chunking it into smaller groups, right? Group of three, and then a group of 4, rather than just one whole long strand of numbers. You're more likely to remember this. Now, that's called chunking. So you do it already, you don't realize it. So what I would like you to do now is watch this. I got this from the Summit Learning Platform. Chunking, a learning technique. It tells you all about chunking, and it's not popping up. I think this is only like 2 minutes. So I'm not going to play this now. You will click this and watch this now on your own. Okay, so now that you learned a little bit more about chunking through that video, I hope you will apply that to your own work. So what are some specific ways you can use chunking or breaking down the tasks in your daily and weekly assignments? So think about that. What are some specific ways you can use chunking or breaking down the tasks in your daily and weekly assignments? Okay, so this is something I'm going to have you answer within Google Classroom. So that is all I have for you. Oh, I forgot about my little Rocky here at the end. So please tell me you have all seen Rocky, classic movies, the Rocky movies, right? So there's Rocky Balboa, right? He climbed the steps. I think it was the steps to the Philadelphia Library. So he climbs the steps and he does the arms up, right? I went to Philadelphia about a year ago. And I really wanted to do this with my sister. I said, we got to go do the Rocky steps. And I wanted a picture of us both up there doing this because they have a statue of him there doing this. But we never made it. Maybe sometime in our future we'll have to do that. But yes, so he had trained. That's what this is all about, folks. Think of like an athlete you really admire. Think of, Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time. Or think of Steph Curry. Or think of Tom Brady. Or I don't know, whoever it is you like. Maybe you like a musician. I really like John Lennon and Paul McCartney and the Beatles, or think of whoever, but how did they get to be as good as they were or as they are, right? They didn't accomplish, it was like Rome, it wasn't accomplished in a day. anything worth doing takes time, right? And little by little effort, break it down into the smaller rewards, and eventually you will get there. Just like Rocky, he had to train, right? A little bit every day, day by day by day by day, and then eventually it adds up. And then look at him, he reached his goal, right? So think of that being you at the end of any major task or assignment or project that you've completed. Okay, you can do the whole Rocky arms up pose. All right, so that is our lesson for this week. Go ahead and you can get started on your assignments for the week. And if you have any questions or concerns, you know where to find me. Have a good rest of the week, everyone.